Hello. This week will mark the transition from a largely narrative part of the Torah, which left us at Mount Sinai last week, to this week the beginning of creating a just and functional society. The Mishpatim, the social laws, begin with what I think is the most important letter in the Torah, a Vav, which connects the two. And the rabbis are very keen to point out that we have the ritual activity as represented by the altar, the last item in last week's parsha, and now the social laws joined by the Vav. They are equal, they are part of the same system, they are each indispensable to creating a meaningful Jewish life. It's an opportunity, I think, to consider our obligations in building a strong community that works well and is sensitive to the needs of every other person as well as ourselves. Also, we're at a stage when there is a glimmer of good news. The reduction in infection numbers means we are able to begin to think about a gradual return and what our values will be as we begin to create what is a semblance, I hope will be a semblance of normality. Golders Green Synagogue is a community that prides itself on a mission that's firmly orthodox, professional in its approach, but cutting edge when it comes to the kind of conduct we've come to expect, demand, perhaps, of everyone associated with our community. This applies to the rabbinic team, lay leaders, other staff, volunteers and members equally. It's clear to me that the vast majority of interactions that take place within our community more than fit our values and code of conduct. But for those rare other occasions, and as we think about returning to more face-to-face interactions, I'm going to mention a few points briefly, and I know that I can count on your full support. And most important, perhaps of all, is the central value of civility, that we need to be polite to each other in all circumstances, whether in speech, writing, or other behaviours, respectful of difference. We can of course express views, differing views, even very strongly, but always respectfully and politely. And when communicating with professionals in the community, the rabbinic team and lay leaders, please do use email in the first instance. This is especially important for the lay leaders and volunteers who have other professional lives as well as personal commitments to manage. It also goes without saying, I hope, that no bullying behaviour or shouting is ever permitted within the framework of the community. We need to be respectful of people's private space and time. I expect that the definition of bullying is obvious, but it includes offensive, intimidating behaviour, abuse of personal information that can end up being malicious or inadvertent. These behaviours may manifest in face-to-face, written, telephone, internet encounters and serve, perhaps inadvertently, to humiliate, denigrate or undermine people. And our behaviours also need to be sensitive to avoid judgmental statements or behaviour that references people's age, gender, sexual orientation, race, religion or beliefs. Focusing inappropriately on these things are the type of harassment that have no place in our community. It's important to mention child protection. We have very clear child protection safeguarding policies that appear on the United Synagogue website. They include any inappropriate physical contact, but can also include verbal or other interactions, and any concerns in these areas must be reported immediately. When it comes to security, the sad reality is that we have to be vigilant all the time about our safety and security. Please participate, please follow guidance, and encourage visitors to do likewise. Volunteers and professionals put a great deal of time into ensuring that we are safe, and we must partner with them. Now, we're all bound by data protection regulations, the GDPR. Please remember not to transfer personal data obtained through shul communication, such as email addresses and phone numbers, without good cause or asking permission. Now, please also remember that our shul is a heritage site. It's a building of great importance to many present and past members of the community. Do treat it with respect and ensure that your children do likewise. And while there is much to do, we are alive to the impact we have on the environment, and we've pushed ourselves to adopt sustainable working practices wherever possible. We're committed to minimising waste, avoiding the use of single-use plastics where possible, and please respect and help implement these policies wherever possible. I'm very grateful to the exec team for this initiative and to Rabbi Sam for capturing these ideas and policies in a document that will be distributed together with this recording and also posted on the shul website, and of course it will be updated as necessary. I want to return to the parsha. We've just moved, as I said, from what is effectively narrative talking about ritual into the Mishpatim, the social laws that help us think about the way we want our communities and society to be governed and to operate. The Marbit, that's Reb Moshe Detrani, writing in the 16th century in his Beis Elokim, points out something rather interesting. There are two tablets when Moshe comes down the mountain. On one side are the laws between man and God, Bein Odom Lamokim. On the other half, on the other tablet, there are laws Bein Odom Lachaveroi, between man, human beings, interpersonal. But there's a midrashic tradition that says that the text filled the entire tablets and that the tablets were of equal size. But if you look closely, there's far, far more writing in the first 5 than in the second 5, which are mostly just very brief statements. So the Marbit explains there is only one way to reconcile these midrashic traditions, and that is that the writing on the second tablets governing our interpersonal relationships must have been much larger than the writing on the first tablet. He said this is a powerful message. Moshe was to come down the mountain, and although it didn't quite work out like this, the intention was that he would be holding the 2 tablets of stone, and in one were the ritual laws between man and God, and the other the laws between human beings. And they would see the human being laws first because they were larger. They would be the first thing to grab their attention. And says the Marbit, it's quite natural for people sometimes to over-focus on some aspects of ritual activity. They are vital. They define who we are as Jews. They define our mission. But they are sometimes neglected. The interpersonal stuff is sometimes neglected in favour of a ritual approach. Our community prides itself on twinning the two, bringing the two together and ensuring that we run a community that is scrupulously orthodox in its observance and practices while professional and sensitive to the needs of other. We're a community that takes the writing on the second tablet very seriously. I'm proud to lead it and to partner with all of you in our commitment to these policies. Thank you. Sei gesund und stark.